Hello everybody, my name is Griffinelli. I am here today going to be covering Chapter 20, Part 2, that just dropped today. Catherine's talking in the background, we're just gonna go right over here, but as I said today, Chapter 20, Part 2 was just added to the main campaign. I'm not going to be reading the chapter or going to be going over the exact specifics, but I'm going to give just my general impressions of the chapter as it rolled, as well as before we get into the new chapter, so before anyone wants to click off for spoilers. Today we had just announced the newest raid event, Stranded Scorns, and as you can see here, we have Uden, Shell, and Leonidas all here in summer outfits, meaning that we're probably going to get a summer Shell and a summer Leonidas. Pretty cool, pretty big as far as this game goes. I really like these two characters, and I really like Uden a lot. And we should be getting a preview, a sliding preview, much like one of these sliding previews down here in the next couple days. But now, let's jump into the bulk of the video. Let's jump straight into Chapter 20, Part 2. So, Chapter 20, Part 2 is kind of short. Originally, I think it only takes up 40% of the chapter. As we start here, we start in this exchange for prayer, and essentially, Jinlorda and Nedrick get to the top of the tree. They find this huge mana barrage there, and they need to get, in order to get past this barrier, they need to have Zethia's powers used on it. So they go out of their way to kind of make that work out. And Zethia basically says that she'll do it if she's learned the truth and if she can trust them, and if next time they meet up, and that they're able to exchange instead of fighting. So they do agree, and Nedrick says that he does agree, and Nedrick goes into a little bit story about his backstory and about how he kind of basically died and then came back as part of an exchange with Bahamut. And we have here, we jump to the other party where Getob is discussing what they're doing up at the top of the tree, and Getob basically says that, yeah, there's this barrier that we need to get by, and we'll need Sheila's power in order to get by it. So Sheila has the ability to break down the barrier, and apparently I just started the chapter by accident. It's revealed that Sheila is in the same situation that Uden is in, where Uden is able to basically just be part of the other and have the other's flesh in him. We're just going to skip this. And same thing with Sheila, but when it happened with her, her ability of emotion and her ability to speak was burned away by the other. Then we go to here, and we have Guardians of the Barrier, and we have the Truth of the Pack. Nedrick goes into a story that essentially when he died, he was just mana, he was returning to mana, and then he came back due to Bahamut. Bahamut kind of reached out to him, and it's kind of under the impression that Bahamut was going to try to use Nedrick in some way or some form, but Nedrick was like, it doesn't really matter if he uses me or not. I'm going to use his power, and I'm going to transform his rage into something that I can use for myself, kind of deal, which is pretty cool and pretty impressive coming from that character. Then as we go on even further, we reach the final part, the club area top. Then we have the introduction of the Fairy King, who introduces the Agito again, but this time they've been consumed by their mask. They're silent, they're not speaking, they're just forward attacking. And then we have the Mass Beast chapter. Now this chapter is probably where the title of the video is going to come. I think I'm going to title the video the best grinding chapter in the game. If we look at just the easy difficulty here, or the normal difficulty, you can see that all 5 Agito drops are available. And in fact, you are able to grind out all 5 Agito at once in this fight. And on very hard, you're able to get expert and master difficulty drops from every Agito boss in the game, which is super good, super cool, and it's super interesting to be able to see that in its current state in the game, because it's basically like a replacement for Master Agito as a whole. Right now, the main campaign is on half stamina and double drops, and you have tickets here, so it's actually more beneficial for you to go through the main campaign grinding this mission than it is to grind the Agito individually. It's way cheaper right now, and the drop rates are better. Now, the only real downside is the money, the Eldwater, and additionally the fact that you can't control which ones you're getting. Basically, whenever you finish it, you'll get 2 random drops, but in doing multiple drops at the same time, if you do like 30 drops, you'll be able to get like 25 of each variation, which is amazing. So This mission here is probably one of the best missions in the game to grind if you're looking to grind out the Agito. I kind of am at the moment, especially with Tartarus, because I don't really like grinding Tartarus, but this is something I can grind in replacement of Tartarus and be able to get resources at the same time. But going back into the story, we have No Retreat, where Gatav basically meets up with Nedrick, and they have a little confrontation, and everyone seems to be on their final foot. Introduce Audric coming back into the story, coming and joining as a main story member, able to help our party in their time of need, able to help them out as they would need him. And he actually defeats all 5 Agito at once, which was super cool to see, super interesting, super powerful moment. He basically, he comes and Yutav's like instantly off guard. He's instantly like, you look like Aurelius, you look like the king, and yeah, but he ends up saving them. And then we cut to Zethia, and Zethia's finally taken down the barrier. Vox is there. The two Jin Lorda and Nedrick show up, and then Eden follows there after. And then Zethia gets kidnapped again, gets eaten by the barrier again. Basically, a third party just enters, snatches her up, and disappears. And then Nedrick and Jin Lorda are on the other side of the barrier. Eden's on one side, so they just walk away, and Eden goes back to his party. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to do something really quickly. Essentially, basically, the story revolves around the fact that in this final chapter that we're looking at here, basically, Uden and Aurelius, or not Aurelius, Uden and Audric are by themselves. They're talking about the situation that's unfolding. They're talking about how, Uden should be happy in the birth and the circumstance of a birth, and if his father treated him any differently. Audric's kind of tiptoeing around the fact that he is his father. He kind of never says it out front. Then we cut to Shell and Gatav, who are both like, yo, that's totally your dad. And Shell's like, I know, that's my dad. It's kind of funny. But then they go back and they end up, the big reveal of the chapter is that Zethia is somewhere near the tree. And it cuts to her, and she's in this black miasma, this black void, and she sees someone, and she's like, oh, who are you? And then the chapter ends. So, no free units this chapter. No huge story revelations, I don't really think. I think this was kind of filler, and I'm a little disappointed that chapter 20 of the story is such a sleeper chapter, but it seemed to be setting up to have 21 be a very, very non-sleeper chapter and be able to introduce very new things. It's seeming like they're playing in the direction of the Agito becoming playable characters. It seems like what they're doing now is that they've turned themselves over to the mass and they become silent, and we may end up seeing a different version, an astral version of the Agito to take their place or something like that. Who knows? But I could see the next wave of maybe even dragons being the Agito. I know that we're almost at the end of the Gobbler Dragon pool. In fact, next Gobbler Dragon will be a new step in our reborn ways. It could be a reborn unit, could be a reborn, just a random dragon. But I do think there's a possibility that we could get reborn Agito as dragons helping out their story members, or maybe them as adventurers. I think that having them as adventurers would be a bit much because you'd have to scale them down. But I think that they all could work as dragons and they could have really unique abilities as well. But yeah, that's going to be it for me for today. We're going to keep this one short, just going to keep this one focused on this chapter. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.